Today's sutta is called the Tālapuṭa Sutta, the Talapuṭa Discourse. Talapuṭa is the name of a person, or the name of an actor, dancer, manager. S. Sangyutta 42.2. And the theme is how an actor dancer became or becomes an awakened monk. This is one of the suttas that can be very influential. In fact, I know of someone, of an English monk, an English person who was an actor. He was acting Shakespeare and so on. And he was trained with Laurence Olivier. And when he heard the teachings of this sutta, he was troubled as an actor. So he went to Thailand. He spent a bit of time as a novice, and he ended up as a monk. That was in 1972. He's 5 years older than me. So he's now like 70, 79, I think. He's been a monk for over 50 years. It's quite an achievement. And he's still working in the prison ministry in the UK. So you can see how suttas can influence people, make them monks, make them good monks. So this is one of those suttas that really is very inspiring. Of course, it's not easy teachings. I mean, the Buddha did not appear in the world to give us sales talk, to say sweet things, everything is all right, or everything is not all right. There are choices we need to make. Things that seem enjoyable and good are not always so. So we got to learn to like moderate things. So, and what is wrong with this, with acting? So this is what the sutta is going to talk about. There's nothing wrong with acting. It's what happens during the acting. So this is what we'll look at in today's sutta. Now, the name Tālapuṭa is a very interesting name. It reflects this personality of this person. It's a kind of like a box, and Tāla means palm tree, like a palm fruit, reddish. So this person has got this sweet, ruddy face, reddish, healthy face. So he was given this name, Tālapuṭa, right? The Palmyra leaf box. Palmyra is a palm tree, so his face is healthy, kind of color like a ripe palm fruit. Okay, let's look at the sutta. Page 111. All right, here we are. Talapuṭa Sutta, the Talapuṭa Discourse. So this is the name of that person. S42.2. The SD number is SD20.8. At one time, the Blessed One was staying in the squirrel's feeding ground in the bamboo grove near Rāja gaha. Now you notice in the first line the place squirrels feeding ground. I didn't use capital letters. My feeling is many of these places in the suttas, they are simply places. They are not actually names. It'd be quite odd to name a place squirrels feeding ground, because actually it shows what's happening there. So it just happened to be a squirrel's feeding ground. No special name to it, you know. Then there's another place called the brick house, for example. The Buddha was living in this brick house. That's the only brick house in that place. So there are occasions I don't use any capital letters because it's a well-known place. Now, even bamboo grove, you can still use small letters, you know, but bamboo grove is so famous. So I think it's all right to kind of make it special. So, and of course, Rāja gaha, you have to use an initial R. Rāja gaha, of course, is the name of a place. It was this capital of Magadha, a city built by Bimbisara. All right. Okay, so this is the background of the teaching. So the Buddha sitting there, the Buddha is always present. And whenever people are ready, people will go to the Buddha and kind of wait their turn, or if the time is right, just talk to the Buddha. Or sometimes people can be so urgent, they just go right up to the Buddha, even though he's on his arms round, and say, please teach me. So this is called availability, right? Of course, nowadays we value time and we say, oh, you must make an appointment and so on. One reason is because we don't have the strength to face people. But when it comes to Dhamma, you find people may come to you anytime. Of course, the good thing about social media is people can post questions and messages online, and then you look at them and answer them. Of course, not to wait too long. You know, the idea of responding to someone as soon as you can would be make the person feel good. So these are some qualities of a teacher. We try to be responsive, wisely responsive, and also keep ourselves healthy so that we can do our task as a teacher well. So you have this body and mind working together, just like in a dancer, body and mind work together. In Dhamma practice, body and mind work together. So we should not have the wrong idea that, oh, you know, Buddhism is just the mind. The Buddhist training starts with the body first. You watch your body. That is moral conduct, keeping the precepts. Keeping the precepts, or the 5 precepts deal with the body, your body, other bodies. We keep the precepts because there are other bodies, there are other people, other beings. And then we need the mind to go with it, loving kindness. So it helps us to keep the precepts more easily. And that practicing of the precept keeps us calm and cuts down distractions. So it's easier for us to cultivate the mind. So that's the second part, the mind. So precepts keep the body healthy, then meditation, mindfulness keeps the mind healthy. So it goes on like that. And then healthy mind in healthy body brings wisdom. So you have this quite healthy person. I mean, you to be able to dance and to sing and so on, you've got to be healthy, right? So he began to notice things. Wisdom was arising in him. Then Tālapuṭa, the dance manager, approached the Blessed One. Having approached the Blessed One, he saluted him and then sat down at one side. Right, so our sutta here, most suttas, they kind of represent, they present or represent a highlight in the life of someone. Something important happened, and it is retold in the sutta. So obviously this Talapuṭa had been hearing a lot of things, right? Every job, every occupation, every preoccupation have got a superstition, their fears. So in this line, singing and dancing and entertaining, they have this belief that when these actors die, they will be reborn in a laughing heaven. The belief is that because of this acting, the person dies and goes to the laughing heaven or laughing hell, 2 possible places. Okay. Of course, in the case of actors who create a lot of unhappy feelings, a suffering state. It will be a laughing hell. Now, the thing is, there is no such place, actually. It's not a particular name of a hell. It's niraya, it's a suffering state. But the beings who suffer there, they, like, you can say they go through this fit of laughter and they can't control it, something like that. So that was one explanation. But then there's going to be a surprise later. The Buddha is going to tell us something else, right? But this was the belief. So that there is this concern with this Talapuṭa. He was wondering what's going on here, which is true, and what to do about it. So here he's that thinking person. So it's not just a dancer. It's not just an actor. It's not just a manager. Okay. The word used here is gamani. Gamani usually means headman, but in this case, it refers to a manager. So he manages this group of 500 dancing women. So they have this amazing group of performers. I mean, if you have had the chance to see any Hindi movie, you find they do this synchronized dancing. There'll be a lot of dancers all going to the same movements and so on, So according to the sutta, he has 500 dancing girls, nicely dressed, pretty girls. And he goes around India, ancient India, performing even in the royal courts. They became very famous because of that. But at the same time, in his mind, there is this thought, what's going to happen to me? So when he goes to Rāja gaha, the Buddha is there. Why not going to see the Buddha? So you have this person who is really wise. When he sees a wise person, he knows it's a wise person and he wants to find out more about himself. So he goes to see the Buddha, salutes the Buddha. Section 3, seated thus at one side, Talapuṭa, the dance manager, said this to the Blessed One. Bhante, I've heard it being said amongst dancers in the ancient lineage of teachers thus, for a dancer on stage or in a show who entertains and amuses the people with truths and untruths, after death, with the body breaking up, he is reborn in the company of laughing devas. What does the Blessed One say about that? All right. So this is one of their superstitions. They say, oh, if you do your job well as an actor, as a dancer, you'll be reborn as a laughing deva. Now, this is quite humorous, because if you think of laughing devas, I mean, what's the joy there? They're laughing all the time, So don't we get tired of laughing? Of course, you have heard of laughing therapy and things like that. It may or may not work. I don't know. But laughing devas is something else. So this is the idea. But something interesting happens here. He asked the Buddha this question, and the Buddha doesn't want to answer it. So it's not always that the Buddha answers questions. It's one of those suttas where the Buddha tries not to answer the question. Notice what the Buddha says, his reply, enough, manager, let it be. Don't ask me that. Okay, so let's not talk about this. Basically, he's telling, he doesn't want to say anything, all right? Obviously, it's not something happy, not something nice. Buddha doesn't want to say anything. All right, what happens now? Let's see. Further down. So for a second time, Talapuṭa, the dance manager, said this to the Blessed One. Again, asked the same question. So here, notice, in our sutta translation, we try not to cut it short. We put in all the repetitions, but you can see here, it is italicized. As you see italicized like this, it means the previous passage is the original one, the first time, and here it is repeated. So this Talapuṭa again asked the Buddha, said, we have this belief, that because we sing and dance and we entertain people with truth and with untruth, with lies. You see movies, you find a lot of things are not true, a lot of fantasy. Even when you play role-playing game or fantasy, they're called virtual games. So virtual means they're not real, right? So after death, with the bodies breaking up, that person is reborn in the company of laughing devas. But he's supposed to be good, What does the Blessed One say about that? Again, the Buddha replied, enough, manager. Let it be. Don't ask me that. You have to imagine the Buddha sitting there and telling this manager, no, don't ask the question, okay? And maybe with a smile. But then the third time, Talapuṭa gently insists, gently coaxes the Buddha to answer the question, the same question. All right. So he asked the Buddha, can you please answer this question? What happens to all these actors and dancers who entertain people with truth and untruth? Are they reborn in the laughing heaven? All right, not that time. The Buddha will oblige. In other words, the Buddha has warned the questioner, you may not like the answer. All right. So the Buddha here says, surely, manager, I'm not getting through to you. And the Buddha is being very, very direct. Surely, manager, I'm not getting through to you when I say enough, manager, let it be. Don't ask me that. But still, okay, since you asked, I will answer you. Because already 3 times, right? So the Buddha will answer. Because the Buddha knows that this person is really serious. He wants to know this, okay? All right, so here's the Buddha's answer. In the past, manager, when beings were not free from lust, who were bound by the bondage of lust, a dancer on stage or in a show would entertain them with lustful themes arousing greater lust. All right. So here the Buddha is talking about people who are not skillful, they're not trained in mindfulness, for example. So they're full of lust, so they like to watch lustful shows. Right? This is what goes on even today. So the shows will evoke more of these lustful feelings, and when the lustfulness is strong, then the critics will say, "Oh, it is a good show," So greater lust will be aroused, right? So that's the theme of lust. In the past, manager, when beings were not free from hate, who were bound by the bondage of hate, a dancer on stage or in a show would entertain them with hateful themes, arousing greater hate. Right? So you can see some movies here where the theme is hate, hatred, killing, and so on, right? So here the word dancer also includes actor, in other words, right? So this is another theme. People like to see violent movies full of hate and killing and so on. And if there's a lot of violence, horrible violence, you say, oh, it's a good movie. Now, the third one is a bit tricky, right? In the past, manager, when beings were not free from delusion, who were bound by the bondage of delusion, a dancer on stage or in a show would entertain them with delusive themes, arousing greater delusion. Something not true, something fictional, but here, of course, it can be quite troubling. For example, do we include all those space fiction here? But all those are not true, but it's possible to be true, so it's quite tricky. Here, I think delusive means actually a false idea that doing something is good, although you're not really sure about it, for example, or like bad is good and good is bad, and in a very confusing situation, delusion, basically, right? So personally, this is my personal view. Fictional things don't think will be included in this unless you take it as it is and nothing more. I say this because we have so many stories in the suttas and commentaries, so many Jataka stories. We don't know how real they are. Right? Of course, we are told their past lives with the Buddha, but we also, scholars tell us that these stories are all already there among the floating tradition of India, right? So, I mean, animals can talk, but we've never seen any animals who can really talk, you know. Although sometimes I have a cat that's really talkative and I can almost feel as if it's saying something. So this is all how we think, you see, how we connect with others. Whether it is true or not is still not yet within our ability because we can't read minds. So they're regarded as delusion. So 7, thus being intoxicated and heedless himself, here the actor or the dancer, he intoxicates others and makes them heedless. And having done so, after death with the bodies breaking up, he arises in the laughing hell. Oh, there you are. Instead of saying laughing heaven, you would actually say you will fall into the laughing hell, a suffering state. But if you were to hold such a view as this, for a dancer on stage or in a show entertains and amuses people with truth and untruth, then after death, with the bodies breaking up, he is reborn in the company of laughing devas. This is a wrong view on his part, right? So the Buddha actually says there's no such heaven of laughing devas. You won't be reborn in that kind of bliss. Now, manager, for an individual of wrong view, there is only one of two destinies, either hell or the animal realm, I say. Right? So this is the most important statement of the sutta. No? When we have wrong view, what are wrong views here? To see what is impermanent, deluding ourselves that it is permanent. What is suffering, we don't accept it to be so. And third one is a bit difficult, non-self. We don't see it, so we don't really know about it, and then that brings us suffering. But it's like that because we are ignorant of it, right? So as long as we see impermanence, that helps. Now, if we reject all this, and we have lots of wrong views, superstitions, and so on, meaning what? We look for answers outside of ourselves. That is superstition. Looking for answers to problems arising in us. We look for those answers outside of us. And we think that there are other people, other things who can help us without ourselves making the effort. That is superstition. Then there is doubt, meaning you simply don't understand that you are your own refuge. You have to, meaning you have to use your mind to clear the wrong view, strengthen yourself, and with wisdom, with right action. And that is called self-reliance. So these are already two aspects of the Srimvena. And then the very first one is letting go of self-view, not identifying with any of the 5 aggregates inside you, even with the body, with the mind, in other words. Right. So when the Buddha said this, he says, now manager, for an individual of wrong view, there is only one of two destinies, either hell or the animal realm. Why is it? Hell is suffering state because of wrong views. Animal realm, you continue in this cyclic ignorance. Animals are predictable. They only have a certain facts that they know, and then they react to it. And because of that, they suffer. All right. You know, lately I was reflecting on how cats in Singapore are suffering. You know, then we're going to make more rules about cats. You got to register them and all kind of things. You know, the cats are so pampered in Singapore, they do not know how to take care of themselves. I was comparing when I was a child, our cats were so versatile and they're so independent. You know, we just give them plain rice with some fish and they're quite happy and they grow healthy. And then they will go out, catch rats or birds or lizards. Remember, I told you about one of my cats brought back a rat and gave it to me. So we have been pampering the cats so much in Singapore that many of them do not know how to take care of themselves anymore. I've never seen a Singapore cat catching a rat, for example. I mean, it's not that I want them to kill rats, but what I'm saying is they are not able to feed themselves, protect themselves. And you know, you hear about dogs killing many cats nowadays. So these are some things. If you're an animal lover, you want to have a voice, you can do something. Maybe try to correct this kind of situation. That would be good. Anyway, so animals are not always happy. They didn't have control of themselves, so they suffer. They are also dependent on humans in the case of cats and dogs. So when the Buddha said this, 8, when this was said, Talapuṭa, the dance manager, cried out and burst into tears. Right? Okay, I'm going to stop here for a while and take a 5 minutes break, and we find out why he cried and what happened after that. So this manager, after hearing the Buddha, he cried. And then his explanation is this 8.2, Bhante, I'm not crying because of what the Blessed One has said to me, but because I've been tricked, cheated, and deceived for a long time by those dancers in the ancient lineage of teachers. Thus, for a dancer on a stage or in a show entertains and amuses the people with truth and untruth, then after death, with the bodies breaking up, he is reborn in the company of laughing devas. So this is a superstition, a false belief. Right? So the sutta actually ends here, because after this, Tālapuṭa is very happy, he takes refuge, and then he becomes a monk. Now, up to here, you find, I'm sure many of us can relate to this Tālapuṭa story. Before we come to know Buddhism, we have a lot of beliefs told to us by other people. Many of them are not true or inaccurate, right? So we're so happy that the Buddha is teaching us something true and real. Because here, Talapuṭa, being an actor, dramatizes this reaction. He's kind of happy, at the same time sad. He was sad with the wrong things he learned. He's happy. He has learned something right and new and true. So here you have this very direct, simple case of someone who's highly intelligent, who is ready, and he comes to see the Buddha, and he quickly gets the hang of it. He's very happy with it, and he benefits. So right away he says, Sadhu, he says, excellent, Master Gautama, excellent, Master Gautama. Just as if one were to place upright, but had been overturned. What would, or were to reveal what was hidden, were to show the way to one who was lost, or were to hold a lamp in the dark so that those with eyes could see forms. In the same way, in numerous ways, has the Dhamma been made clear by the Blessed One? Right? So you can see in this paragraph that Talapuṭa goes through all this. He learned the wrong thing, upside down things, but now it is put right side up. He was lost. Then the Buddha brought him to the right path. He was not sure about certain things, and now the Buddha holds up a lamp and he could see it. So he's very happy. I go to the Blessed One for refuge, to the Dhamma, to the community of monks. You notice in the refuge formula, it's always this community of monks, the monks who are before us, because they remind us of the practice. At the same time, it goes the other way around. For the monks, they are reminded that they should be practicing. Here, it doesn't mean that, you know, they have a special status, that we go to refuge, we go for refuge to them. It goes both ways. They can only be a refuge if they are strong spiritually. Then they can be a refuge to us. If they are not, if they are evil, they don't practice, how are they ever going to be a refuge, an example for us? Right? Then he goes on, may I, Bhante, receive the going forth. So notice here, he not only goes for refuge, he also straight away asks to be ordained. So these are people who are ready, you know, right? May I, Bhante, receive the going forth, Babaja, this is the novice initiation, under the Blessed One. May I receive the ordination, Upasampada, is to take up the rules of the monks. So that ends his words. No? Then Talapuṭa, dance manager, received the going forth and the ordination in the Blessed One's presence. Right? Now, the thing here is, we're not told who ordained him. In this case, probably the monks. No? And the Venerable Talapuṭa, the dance manager, not long after being ordained, after being given the Upasampada, dwelling alone, aloof, diligent, exhaustive, and resolute, having right here and now realized for himself through direct knowledge, dwelt in the supreme goal of the holy life, for the sake of which sons of family rightly go forth from the household life into homelessness. This passage reminds us of the purpose of becoming a monk or a nun, that is to renounce and attain arhathood. Right? So he became an arhat. Now there's a bit more, the arhat paragraph below. Let's go down a bit more. He directly knew, again, see, notice the reliance here. He directly knew, he knew for himself, birth is destroyed. The holy life has been lived. Done what is to be done. There is no more of this state of being, no more suffering. And the Venerable Talapuṭa, the dance manager, became one of the arhats. This is a short and sweet story of this very intelligent person who was a dancer, an actor, and a manager. Okay, now we have about 15 minutes of questions. Question time.
Thank you, Piya, for the teaching. And now we have a Q&A session. Sister Isim, please take over the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Ratna. Thank you, Brother Piya, for the teaching. The first question from Sister Helene. Based on this sutta, what is Brother Piya's view on Sunday school that started hymn singing?
All right, that's a good question. I'm tempted to say, don't ask me the question. But anyway, I like music, I like songs, I like good music, I like good songs. That's very important. You see, the history of Sunday schools in Malaysia and Singapore is a bit like our colonial history. We followed the early colonialists who came here. They were white, they were Westerners, and they were anti-Christians. Some people they don't like certain religion, and they come to be Buddhists because they don't like the other religion, and that's not a very good reason. So what they try to do is they use the music and they change it around and they put Buddhist words. I remember there was a time when there was this monk who even changed some of those Christmas carol and used Buddhist words. And we thought, wow, it's a great idea because we all are so influenced by Western culture here. So to hear this Christmas music with Buddhist words, you say, oh, that's wonderful. But the Westerners, when they look at us, they were tearing their hair. They say, oh my goodness, what's happening to all these Asians? So we got to grow up after a while and say, no, we should not be living in other people's past, right? We can have music, but we got to improve on the music. We should not be singing something because the Christians did it. We always kind of like measuring ourselves against them. We can't use certain words because they have used it, things like that. We should not think like that. So if you can have some really good Buddhist music, that's fine. You know that the West, they had really great church music, something like that. Maybe we can do something. It'll take some time, but it's possible. We can. You got to be inspired. You must have loving kindness, joy, and then you have music. Then when you write this music, it is Buddhist. Now we don't have that. We don't have the Buddhist spirit. Most of us in Asia are still with a colonized mind. We're still following other people's culture. We call it modern culture. And then we try to create Buddhist culture. There's no culture. So it's quite a difficult situation here. But in a sense, we have to learn from the West, yeah. Meaning you go there, watch how they do it, how they behave, how they learn things. I'm talking about learning process, not simply follow what they do. Some things are good, yeah, there's nothing wrong with following. And then when you come back here, you look around and say, okay, how can I be creative? How can I be truly Buddhist, reflecting on our culture? All right. So it's not an easy answer to a difficult question. Okay. So that's what I feel of so-called Buddhist songs. I don't think they can be called hymns. Maybe those Pali gathas that we sing, they could be called hymns. Yeah. For example, if you recite Namo Tassa, for lay people, monks can't do it. It's called mellifluous. That means you go in a up and down rising tone. Okay. So lay people can do that. For example, the Thai temples, they teach us to sing the Mangala suttas and the verses, and so something like that. That would be nice. So I'm inspired by beautiful music. So if some Buddhist musician can write beautiful music, that really would be great. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Brother Piya. The next question from Sister Huilin is, in the BN 21 Sakapanha Sutta, there was also song singing in front of Buddha, and Buddha did praise the singer. Guess beautiful music is okay.
Yes, there you are, you see. Of course, we must not read too much into that story. It's a beautiful story. I'm happy you read the Sakapanha Sutta. It's a very beautiful sutta. Of course, I really love Sakra. You know, I mean, he's like Apollo. You know, a very mischievous god, and then becoming Buddhist, he's very well restrained. He became a wonderful god, and he feared death, and then right there in front of the Buddha, he is reborn, and then he becomes this amazing, wonderful Buddhist Apollo, if you like. So the Buddha is appreciating the joy in this person, in the heavenly musician who's singing to him on the instruction of Sakra. Because Sakra is afraid to see the Buddha. Somehow he had great difficulty meeting the Buddha, so he sent Panchasika, you know, he sent his friend to go and see the Buddha, sing something nice, and kind of basically telling the Buddha, Sakra is waiting to see you. So you can see that really beautiful way of making friends with music. Of course, the Buddha knows what's going on, and the Buddha, of course, would say, "Very good, it's well done." You know, it's not that the Buddha is carried away by the music, but he knows there's a good intention behind it. I remember seeing some really good monks. You know, this Buddhist society had rather unwisely invited them to sit down and watch all these teenagers performing dances on stage. And so they just sit down quietly. They look down 45 degrees on the floor, calmly throughout the process, you know. And of course, they're filled with loving kindness. So that's the way they appreciate the good things people do. They don't say anything. They don't say, "Oh no, you should not be dancing. It's not good." You know. I mean, he knows young people will dance. The Sunday school will dance. You know. So he practices his Vinaya by calmly restraining his vision, and the performance goes on, but he's kind of being mindful. So you see everything, the two worlds going smoothly side by side. All right. Okay, next question.
Thank you, Brother Piya. Brother Maya Upal have a remark here. He mentioned Panchasika, the singer.
Yes.
Yeah, just a remark.
Panchasika, the heavenly musician.
Yeah.
What about him? Yeah. And that is not
Nothing, just highlight only.
his real name. I just forgot his real name for a moment. That is one of the people, one of the devas in the Tao things.
What he meant is that you mentioned the Panchasika, Sakra asked him to sing to go and see the Buddha where he sings. Yeah, that's
Okay.
the one that he's referring to.
Yeah, all right.
At the moment, there's no question in the chat box, Brother Piya.
Okay.
I mean, brother and sister would like to ask question, you can ask. Unmute and ask your question now. Thank you.
Hello, Brother Piya.
Yes.
Hi, Gekchu here.
Yes, Getchu.
Thank you so much for the short sharing. I guess the question I have here is, the Buddha actually has a divine eye, right?
Yes.
And usually he kind of know like who is actually quite ready to be an arhat and stuff like that. And so given how ready Talapuṭa was, I was just a little bit intrigued as to why the Buddha actually didn't want to answer him in the first place. And it required 3 times before he finally sort of agreed to give the answer. And the outcome was actually very, a very, what I call wholesome one, in the sense that, you know, it led Talapuṭa to basically renounce and ultimately become an arhat.
Yeah. Well, okay, this is only a guess because I can't read the Buddha's mind. I think someone may be ready, but we have to like prepare the ground for that readiness. To be ready is like you have this very good seed, you see. But if the ground is not good, even the good seed will not grow, you see. So the Buddha also knows that we will be watching, we'll be listening to the sutta. See, so if everything went through smoothly, you ask a question, he answers just like that. You'd be wondering, what's going on here. I mean, it's so mechanical. See, so here he is responding to the human aspect of people, unawakened people. So in this case, basically the Buddha is saying there are certain questions he will not answer right away because they're not very helpful. He doesn't like telling people you're going to go to hell, for one thing, right? I mean, he's kind of warning Talapuṭa, so you're not going to like the answer to this, and he's telling us also. And remember, the sutta is always to us also. It's not just to those people in the sutta, like Talapuṭa is already an arhat. I mean, it's already awakened. So the sutta is being addressed to us. So there is that purpose behind the teaching also. So it's like we are the one represented by the unawakened Talapuṭa, right? So the Buddha kind of prepares the way for the Dhamma to arise in that sense. Yeah. And there are different ways of the Buddha answering. If you look at different suttas, sometimes a question is not asked and he will say something. Sometimes the question is asked and he will not answer. There is the Vacchagotta Sutta where he does not answer at all, and Vacchagotta goes away. Here, the Buddha is a divine eye. He knows Vacchagotta will come back, you see. Because Vacchagotta is the person who keeps on asking questions, even though the Buddha doesn't answer. He said, I'm going to come back and ask, So he knows that, right? So sometimes I use a bit of that approach too, that just answers differently to certain people, because I know that's the way they can take it, you see. All right.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, I think that's really useful. So in essence, he kind of knew that Talapuṭa would actually be asking 3 times. Like basically he wouldn't be giving up.
I suppose so. Yeah, I would say
So
that. Yeah.
like he wouldn't give up and therefore miss the opportunity. But and therefore he could actually use that to, like you say, direct. I mean, his approach was literally meant more for the lay people, the ones who are perhaps not ready.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
thank you. Very beautiful again.
yeah, it's also like, because all of us are either already teachers or potential teachers. So these are also important lessons for us, teaching lessons, how the Buddha teaches, right? So you are preparing the person for the answer. So, it's not an easy answer, so something like that. So are you sure you're ready for it? So this is what the Buddha is trying to say. Okay, any other questions? Yeah, I'm working on volume SD62 now, on the Samagama Sutta, where the Buddha is telling Ananda how the Buddhist community should be unified and happy together even after his death, because the leader of the Jains, when he died, the whole community, the Jain community, were in discord, quarreling and so on. It's quite a long sutta, but now I find it's quite easy to translate even the long suttas. The important thing is how much notes are we going to put in. Any other question?
I think there's no more question, Brother Piya.
Okay, we got a couple of minutes more. We are working on. We've got about 1 minute. Any last minute questions?
Okay, so you were mentioning about like some people coming to Buddhism because they sort of don't like or hate their previous religion, right? So I was just thinking, like, this was coming to me and wanted to share probably that with me it was like totally not the case, because Buddhism or Dhamma, like, how it started through Vipassana and all. I didn't know like Buddhist or Buddhism. It was more of Dhamma. So it came sort of like very naturally through a friend. And I grew up in a society and culture in Hinduism and Sikhism, like predominantly from my father's and mother's side.
Yes.
And not at all since childhood we were ever told that, don't go to Buddha or don't listen to his teachings, or like I don't feel there was any negativity whatsoever. And it was more like it giving me something what I needed at the time. And when I was a child, so my paternal grandmother, she used to teach me stories of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, who is the founder of Sikhism. And my maternal grandparents, they would tell me about Sri Krishna, Ramayana, all those Hindu stories.
Very well
So,
rounded.
Sorry?
Well-rounded. Well-rounded religious training.
So last year, I had very good time at home when I was also reading, I think, your book, Miraculous Life of Gautama Buddha and all. And I also started reading some stuff on Sikhism and Srimad Bhagavatam, some shlokas I read. And I was also mentioning to Patricia from the class on Facebook that there was this one shloka, and it got so well connected with a Thai monk's teaching, Saint Kabir teaching, this shloka, and also Vipassana teaching something about the heart area and some awakening sort of a thing. And I was so happy. I was almost like jumping or dancing with joy in my home that this is getting connected so well. Like what I was hearing in my childhood, Buddhism or Dhamma is giving me actual tools to sort of implement it and maybe experience the things that other Indian saints did.
That is India's blessing to you. So you make use of it with the multi-religious, that is good. So see the connection, but do not water down the Dhamma. Because it is the Dhamma the Buddha Dhamma that help you to see these connections, Because once you remove Buddha Dhamma, you will not see the connections anymore. So always remember that. Because sometimes you think, all religions are the same. No, they are not the same. Some religions can be very violent today. But it is how we see it. We see peace. And if more people can do that, it'd be wonderful. There'll be more peace.
So, see, this also I wanted to mention. So I read your SD series on Bhagavad Gita, at least a part of it, right? And also... I forgot what other part. And also, I mean, historically, I read a bit negative things also against like Brahmins and what happened with Buddhism. So those things create negative. So now it is like sometimes it is like a tug of war in my mind, because on one hand, I read these things and they create negative feelings also that, if things like these happened and yes, that is not right. And then there is a good feeling also that comes from reading all these other things, and when I'm relating it to Dhamma, and I feel like, this is getting related, and what doesn't get related, I sort of keep it aside for the moment. So sometimes that tug of war also happens, that truth, what is the truth?
These ancient Indians are very good storytellers, and Buddhism lost its number because the Brahmins and those philosophers were very good in telling stories. The Bhagavad Gita, for example, really kind of make use of Buddhist teachings and then turn it around, you see. So that since you have all this background, if you look at it carefully one day and then see what are the things that twisted around, For example, Bhagavad Gita, you may not, I don't know how you feel about this. They seem to say it's all right to kill. The chariot interview, right? The Arjuna, I forget the characters.
Arjuna.
Yeah, Arjuna
and Krishna.
Yeah.
Krishna tells Arjuna, you are Kshatriya, your duty is to kill. So it's all right to kill, but that's very un-Buddhist, you see. So that's a very clever way of going against the precept, because Buddhism said, no killing, even kings, when they kill, is wrong, but the Buddha, of course, doesn't say it openly. So things like that. So this is in your area, keep this in mind. So if you can correct it again and tell people, look, this is not a Buddhist thing, it's something that they are trying to turn around, and then that'll be good. I mean, we can still be friends with people, but it doesn't mean when they talk about our family, we say it's all right, we don't accept that either. So there's a balance kind of friendliness.
I didn't get the last part. Sorry, what was that?
Our friendliness to others must also bring up the goodness of our family, our own family. I mean, we're nice to our neighbors, but still the goodness of our family must be there. That's what I mean. Okay.
So
right.
what does that?
Sorry?
Sorry if I can take 2 more minutes. What does that mean? The goodness of our family?
Every family has certain goodness, their own goodness, which makes you what you are. So no matter how good other families are, we cannot say, oh, they're better than us. Maybe they're good in certain other ways, maybe financially or maybe politically, but those are worldly things, you see. But when you talk about really good things, what have made you a very good person, that one goes unchallenged. You cannot compare with others in that sense. Of course, maybe with the Buddha, yes. So there are some things which are good in our family, in the Dharma, you keep it that way. That's what I mean. And the one you cannot water down. Okay, very good. Thank you.
Brother, we have one more thing, please.
Okay, quickly.
So yeah, just since you mentioned this Bhagavad Gita thing, so this is how, okay, so this is how they teach it in Vipassana, okay, and this is how I was also trying to understand it, especially this killing point, right? So I was reading today's sutta during the day. I read the preface also, right, before the sutta, and in the end, you mentioned that it is actually about the intention, right? So if the actor is acting with charity, loving kindness, and wisdom, or say if a writer or a director, a movie maker. So if I create a movie tomorrow, but the intention is to impart wisdom, so maybe I will make use of action sequences, maybe I will make use of songs, but the intention will be to give a Dhamma message.
Yeah, so that's one point. It's good you raise it. So if the actor acts something good, makes people feel happy and be kind, that is fine. The wrong part is the opposite of that. There is great hatred.
For this killing thing, like how they were teaching in Vipassana, is that your intention is not to harm someone. You do not want to actually kill them. But if they are, say, coming and aggressing against, say, your family or your state, then what are you going to do? And I don't have the answer to it. Maybe the right answer is that still, like, let them kill and give it up. And I think in
when
one of
the time comes, you know what to do. Some questions you cannot answer right now. They're not technical questions. Those are real questions. You have to deal with your own life when it comes. Don't answer them now, because you give the wrong answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I think in one of the Jataka tales, Buddha does give up, the Bodhisattva gave up his kingdom, right? Or his family also to someone.
Yeah. I mean, he's Buddha, So that's why he could do that. He's going to be Buddha. So all this is a background. All right. Thank you very much. All right. So see you next lesson. All right. Bye-bye.
Thank you. And thank you for all your insights.
Right. So let us spend a quiet moment to remember this wonderful 1.5 hours that we have spent. It's not just 1.5 hours. Take it as a kind of renunciation, Dhamma renunciation. You have sacrificed that time to listen to the Dhamma, to practice meditation, to keep the precepts. Remember, this is a very wholesome moment, kusala moment, a time of great merit. By the power of all this goodness we have done, may you be well, may you be happy. Tell yourself, may I be well, may I be happy. May my mind be calm and clear so that I can understand the Dhamma fully. And send your thoughts to your loved ones, people you care for, animals and beings you care for, and not other people who you have difficulty with. Send all your thoughts and wish them well and happy wherever you go. Go safely, bring joy and peace. And finally, we show our gratitude, joyful gratitude to the three jewels by whom we are gathered here joyfully every fortnight. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Sāvaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.